Budget in for you, bro. 16
Man.
cameras and everything, man.
It's just lit right now. Life is crazy, you know? It's harder than it looks, my boy. It's harder than it looks.
Oh, I'm sorry too. I did not. How's everybody doing? Everybody always against everybody else that probably make all the moves for the young brother. You know what I'm saying? Look, how you doing?
You know what I'm saying? For sure.
Sorry, brother. No disrespect. Little fist pump for the brothers.
This is what happens. You see how he greeted everybody? That's what happened when you work at Magic. Magic come with all the, the energy. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like
you know what it is? Here's what happens when superstars walk in the building.
Yeah.
Everybody don't see human beings no more. They just see the superstars and all eyes on you.
Man.
What I always try to do, this is just me,
Yeah.
is acknowledge the people in the background.
Absolutely.
Because you'll be here and nobody will never speak. Like I had to
Right.
speak to my man over here with the camera or
Right.
my man over here, the young lady over here, because they deserve a certain
1000%.
energy too. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
everybody, it takes a village. And it's
Yeah.
funny you said that because last night when I was leaving the concert, when we're leaving out of the dock, there are workers there that are waiting to tear the stage down that came earlier that morning, 6 a.m. to put it up.
Yep.
And sound like they're not really acknowledged as much. I always try to acknowledge them, you know what I'm saying? Because
See, that's why I like
they the
you.
one,
I
nah, for
always
real,
did.
for real,
You
for real,
just
man.
different, man. You just
I appreciate you.
But I think that's why you've been, and we've had this conversation before,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks back when you was doing, dropping your single and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has a lot to do with your longevity. I think oftentimes people, they get to where you are and they start forgetting.
Yeah.
And it's easy. People be forgetting that sometimes the road goes up and down. You know what I'm saying? They say that they're saying who you see on the way up is the same people you meet on the way down. So, you never know who could be that next person that can give you a helping hand.
That's true to a certain degree, too. I agree with that. But it's also that I think as an artist, like, being aware is one thing, but being hyper-aware is another. I'm a very hyper-aware person. And, sometimes that's not fully activated, but I'm hyper-aware of energies. I'm an empath, so I feel all the energies around me, everything around me. And sometimes as an artist, you have to be very selfish to protect yourself. So a lot of artists are in that mode, too, of just being an
Always
artist
protect
24/7,
themselves.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
And
I
I
get
get
both
it.
sides of it.
I get it. I salute you for that, though.
Everybody can't be the same.
Yeah,
You gotta
and
have.
it's
you know what I'm
hard.
saying?
It's a hard place to be, too.
But I also come from, I started when I was 14, bro. So, like, when I started, everything was interaction. There was no hiding behind social media. There was I'm saying everything was
for
like,
sure, for sure.
I'm doing insult signing today at Cactus in Houston. And, it's just the reason why I wanted to do it because it takes me back to, those days where everything was hands-on. Everything was, you were touching your fans. You were seeing you.
All right, be honest. Do you miss that? Do you miss that?
Sometimes.
Because I used to love when they had the drop date for the single.
Yeah.
When the album was coming out, the anticipation of going to the record store to buy the record. It was you had to make a whole plan to go get that new single or new album.
I'm gonna tell you why I miss it. From a business standpoint, I miss it because you could see every fan. When you get your spread of like what you sold, you knew what every fan that brought an album, you knew every fan that bought. Every merch is still the same, but like you knew every fan that bought your music. Now it's like people are like, oh, I just streamed your album, or, I just downloaded your. You know
I
what I'm saying?
never thought about it like that.
So
that does not feel
that
personal.
money that they're paying for, to stream everybody's music, is not necessarily coming directly to you. And I think that people have gotten so used to just being able to pick up their phone and listen to music that there's still fans, thousands of fans that still buy music, but the numbers were different. And we would calculate the numbers different based on actual direct sales.
But how do you still do that in this environment? How do you, as an artist,
Yeah.
still give that one-on-one feel to the people who love Mario's music?
For example, when I go to shows and I do meet and greets, the hundreds of fans and overall, thousands of fans that come to meet and greets throughout our whole tour, those are the ones who get that chance to have that one-on-one. And touring, obviously, still is one of the biggest things. And then when fans see me in the streets, 8 times out of 10, I'm taking a picture with them. Like, I very seldomly say no to a fan, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just try to stay in touch through that way and obviously through social media. But the meet and greets, I would say, is the most potent way to do that.
How are you feeling about the concert tour, man?
It's fun, man. I love being on stage through better or for worse. Touring with other artists sometimes is hard. But, this is different. Mary's fans are, you know, some of them are older, some of them are younger than Neil's. Like me and Neil performed together before. We got a mixture of both. So it's just, you know, grabbing new fans, reminding people of why they love your music, why they connect with you, and just sharpening my tool. You know, different audiences force you to bring something different out of yourself as an artist, and just, you know, pushing it forward, man. Just the culture and also of R&B. Performing new music on stage always feel like refreshing, but it's also like, you know, you got to be very intentional about selling what the song is and really drawing people in, you know, because radio, obviously, you know, y'all been playing a new single and everything, but like hearing it live is a different experience. So I try to keep it as sonically the same as what they hear on radio, you know, when I'm singing live, but also try to give visually a different perspective so that they can remember, you know, the show and like have their moment.
How do you look at Mario? It's kind of like you kind of had mentioned, like Mary J's a little. Now she would be perceived as the seasoned artist.
Yeah.
But, you know, you've been doing this since you've been about 15.
Yeah.
You're a grown-ass man now.
Yeah.
How does Mario actually perceive himself? Because you also come with a list of hit records, right?
Yeah.
Not new to this whatsoever. So where on the spectrum is, like, if one of the youngsters came to you and say, OG, I don't know if they hit you with that before, but you got such a...
Young OG. I get young OG.
You get young...
It doesn't bother me because I have been in the game for so long. I've been in the game over 20 years, right?
And it's a blessing still doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like it's a blessing to be able to have awareness of both sides of it, like the younger, you know, audience and also the more mature audience. And knowing that I have the plate is mine. It's like what I want to serve is on me, but the table is there. Right? So when I go into my film space and I'm like, you know, I want to shoot a film that is for the whole household, like Style Me for Christmas. But then I want to go make an album that's for people who love R&B, but it's still, I think I can do everything. Right now I'm in the prime of like where I can really expand on my audience. And so like this year, touring and music, right? Next year is going to be more film projects and things that I'm working on. So really taking advantage of feeding everybody with my creativity and my talent. So that's where my mind is at now. You know, it's like in the next, you know, 5 to 6 years, if New Citizen Production is not like putting out content every year in a movie space and also releasing music and doing, I'm not doing it right. You know, so now it's like, it's about grabbing everybody and bringing everybody into this universe of my creativity and, you know, as a businessman, as a creative, as an artist, bringing it full circle. That's what I see. Like, even when I'm on stage, I'm like, I'm not just thinking about music. I'm thinking about, okay, how can I make a movie that all these people's going to come and watch in theaters in a year and a half? How can I create brands that, you know, cater to these fans? Like, just, you know, just thinking of it from a different aspect, business-wise, because I think people are ready to enjoy and support content and art that's relatable to them, that tells stories that they like. And so, yeah, we're in that storytelling phase. Now it's about telling stories, you know, and really expanding my creative palette.
Are you amazed to see so many young people who, I'm not going to say that they're disinterested in the music scene of what's going on now, but they're gravitating towards your generation, if you will, of music. Is that surprising to you? Or maybe this is something every generation goes through, like everybody starts to love that older generation and appreciate it more, or they don't appreciate what's going on now. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a mixture of both. I think, you know, over the past few years, you know, that a lot of the younger producers have been remaking a lot of traditional or like, you know, early 2000s R&B, some in the 90s even, right? And so a lot of the music fans are like going back and catching up to like, oh snap, that was actually a remake of this one, and the original one even better. Yeah, like, you know, so that, and then also I think, which is a good thing, the internet and memes and, you know, all these different things that's leading people back to nostalgia. You know, and I do think that there's a resonance with, it's like, you know, if you still got your grandmother in your life or your aunties and you know, they have been playing music all your life, but you just never paid attention to it. Then when you hear music that's reminiscent of that, it takes you back to that time and it just feels better, right? And so I think it just opened up that palette for people who wanted to hear something and feel real raw emotion more, right? Because we all want to. Even if you grew up on synthetic, once you start eating something that's actually good, you like, okay, this make my body feel better. I want this as much as possible. And I think that right now we're going back into a more organic space of people just wanting rawness, raw emotion. Even like some of the hip hop artists, like you hear records where they actually singing on records, right? They sing and they talking about their pain. They talking about, how they feel about, their love, their love life, but they doing it in the hip hop form. So it's like that emotion is definitely coming back. We're going into the age of Aquarius, so everything's about to just be more open. And I think you're going to even see people who were more, hardcore, just like kind of like just in a space of just trauma and negativity, be more open about it. You're about to start seeing people be more open about health. You're about to see people start being more open about mental health and eating better and working out. And we're going into a space where people are just being more aware of what is best for what is going to give them longevity.
I hope you're right, brother.
Right? We're going into that space, and I'm excited about it because it's a space that I've been in for years, and I've just kind of been patiently waiting for people
to catch up with you.
I mean, catch up with themselves, but yeah, catch up with the idea of longevity and preservation, bro. That's important on every, and it's going to help us and help our community as well.
How you feel about the new album, man?
I feel great about it.
Talk about that a little bit, because I know you put a lot of energy into this new project.
Energy is true. Energy is true. Glad you came. Glad you came is, I think, it's a statement of my passion and my love for R&B. In a place where I could have gone in so many different directions creatively for an actual album. I wanted to make something that would stand the test of time and be able to stand next to my other bodies of work and still feel right. And I feel like I did that. I feel like we did that. Me and James Fauntleroy worked on this project. He executive produced it. Mm-hmm. I wrote a lot on this project, probably more than I've written on any of my albums before. So when you hear records like Keep Going and Glad You Came and Space and,
Space was different, man.
Yeah.
Space was different. Keep Going. I like Keep Going, too, though. I like Keep Going. That's real nice. I appreciated Space because it felt like you were trying, like, hey, y'all, I want to stretch out a little bit. I want to try something a little bit different. I'm like, okay, Mario.
When you listen to Space, for me, when I listen to Space, I'm back in my grandfather, his bar area at his house, and he drinking some whiskey or whatever he drinking, listening to jazz music, right? So it's like that cool, like, contemporary, jazzy R&B vibe that I think is just inspired by people like Marvin Gaye, people like Michael, a mixture of Michael and Marvin. Then, you throw a little bit of Stevie in there with some of the chord changes, like just my inspirations, right? Before we get into the more contemporary parts of the album. So that's what you're feeling with Space, and Glad You Came is just, the statement itself is just about, I'm glad that y'all took this journey with me, because I've been taking this journey with myself, and all these ups and downs brought me to where I'm at now, and just rediscovering my passion for music, my passion for creating, and just being in it all the way again, is what that encompasses fully.
I think you said it all, man. I appreciate you, first of all. Always the same. Ever since I missed you when you was here to where you are now. It's always interesting to watch the progress of an entertainer and where their life goes.
Thank
you. You've been consistently, as a human being, the same. Your music grows, but consistently as a human being, your energy is always the same. So I salute you for that, man, and continued success, man. I'm just happy. I know you kind of tired. Big show last night, and you're on the road for a good minute, but I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to us.
Of course, man. So of course. I appreciate being here. We have to preserve the art form, and I've been saying this whole way. We got to preserve the art form. A lot of things are changing in the world that are, moving in a more synthetic space.
Yep.
And we got to preserve the emotion, preserve those raw feelings, those things that connect us as human beings.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? And we have fun with it too, but, that's what we're here to do.
All
Preservation.
Right,
Let's go. Glad you came.
Man.
Out right now everywhere.